First thing I would ask you to do is to not decide from moment to moment what you believe. Simply learn everything that I teach you, and then somewhere down the road, a week or two or longer, decide what you believe, because you got to get a story involved. Get the whole story, should I say. I took a class in handwriting analysis completely by accident 18 years ago, and I didn't believe most of what I was taught, but every time I provided a person with an analyzation, the analysis was correct. And the reason that's easy to test is fortune telling and so forth is from today forward, whereas handwriting analysis is from today in the past. And so most of the time the person can verify that what I'm saying is true. When they can't is when I'm looking at something that's unconscious and I can tell that. The most fun is when someone's with them, like a spouse or a good friend who knows them, and when I say, oh, you tend to be like this, and they say, yeah, and the friend says, oh my gosh, they're like that all the time. So verification in thousands of handwritings. Any characteristic that I teach you today is not good, bad, right, or wrong when you see in your handwriting, because I'm going to ask you to write a sample in a few moments. But how you allow it to operate in your life can be a positive or negative effect. So for example, when we deal with perfection, perfection can help you to do a very good job at work, but you allow that perfection to enter a relationship and it'll destroy it. No characteristics are cut and dried. Just because you see one or two of these in your handwriting doesn't mean that you're crazy or doomed for jail or so forth. It possibly has to do with a segment like work or a relationship, so forth. To get a true analyzation, someone as myself needs to look at a lengthy sample and decide what the balance is. What I want to show you today is welcome to 9 hell traits, 9 relationship hell traits, which means that if you find 3 or more of these in someone's handwriting, the relationship is probably not very promising. But first, we need to decide why boys need parents. And these are pictures that are indicative of why boys need parents. I like that one. All of us survived that at some point in our lives.
Screwdriver,
This is, yeah, exactly. This is one of my favorites right here. Boys do that. That's always an interesting picture. This guy kind of miscalculated. That's one of my favorites too. Mommy, do you have some more of those white things? That's probably 2 a.m. And that's a great pet right there. I like showing this right after lunch. That's a good one. And that one as well. That's probably my first favorite, mainly because that child looks exactly like my son. It's not, but that's what he looked like at that age. And then there's a good explanation there. Okay, so this is just a little bit of an introduction. What major insurance company uses its founder's signature as its logo? Anyone know in here?
John Hancock.
Exactly, John Hancock. At times in our culture when we need a document signed, we say, I need your
John Hancock.
or John Hancock. Right. Coincidence, you think? Huh? National Handwriting Analysis Day is January the 23rd. Guess whose birthday that is?
Must be yours.
It's John Hancock. So those coincidences? No, because John Hancock is credited with bringing the study of handwriting, or graphology, to America. Handwriting analysis is used by the FBI, the CIA, the IRS, and the local police on a daily basis. By the way, it is admissible evidence in court. It's scientifically based, and we catch a lot of bad people that way. Uses. Analysis is used in employment, court evidence, business deals, membership, career guidance, self-improvement, and relationships. And here's something that's kind of a caution as to who you share this with when you learn it. Who wants to know the truth? 2 10-year studies, one in the 50s in the U.S. and another in the 90s, far, far away from Western influence, something like the jungles of Papua New Guinea, watched and analyzed and tested over 3,000 people over a 10-year period to ask the question of who really changes. And change only comes when there's awareness, and awareness then gives you the truth. The most surprising factor was that the studies were pretty much the same results. 4 decades apart, 2 complete cultures apart. What percentage do you think? Percentage of people changed in a 10-year period?
20%.
20%?
I'd bet pretty high, like 80 or 90.
80 or 90? Okay.
It goes 40.
You go 40? Okay. The truth is, in both studies, one in the 50s, one in the 90s, with thousands of people each time, was 4%. David Gold here in Dallas used to have a talk show, and he called his audience the 5%ers. Because he said his observation was only 5% of his audience ever even used their minds. Yes, and so those of us who know things, and whether you're a financial planner or whatever work you're in, and it gets frustrating that people just don't do what you tell them to do, the truth is only 4% are, and the 96% are not going to. So, change comes from awareness or wanting to know the truth. So be careful who you share the truths you learn today, because it is true and it will make people very uncomfortable. And on average, 96% of them are going to argue with you and tell you that it's wrong. Okay. Here in the studio, we have paper that they've already written this out. Get an unlined piece of paper, audience, if you want to. I'm going to write these 3 sentences in cursive. And the first one, they're all silly. I created these I analyze at parties for entertainment many times. And so the first one is, you and your monkey are going home to the zoo today. In cursive and readable like you're writing a Christmas card or a birthday card.
As readable as we can make it.
You want them when we finish?
No, I don't want to see them. You're going to analyze, because what's going to happen is you'll write these 3 sentences, then I'm going to teach you what to look for in your own handwriting to see how many scary things y'all have. And that way you can learn as well. The second sentence, I said I would cautiously proceed properly for 55 minutes, and write out the words 55. And the third sentence is, monkeys make money and shaky friends. That is true. Have you experienced that?
No friends, no monkeys.
You stay away from the monkeys, don't you? That's because they're shaky friends. They're not worth being friends with. And then lastly, if you will sign it with your signature, readable, first and last name.
Better than usual.
Okay, to the board we go. And this has to do with relationships, whether it's emotional, social, personal relationship, or whether it's a business relationship. Everything applies. Let's first look at the letter T. We can tell as many as 23 things about a... Oh boy, that's interesting. That is too. We can tell as many as 23 things about a person. The higher a person crosses their T, the higher their self-esteem. If you find a person who's crossing their T's down here, and in a personal relationship, you eventually tell that person you love them, chances are they're not going to believe you because they don't believe that they're lovable. There is such thing, let me back up. Handwriting analysis the analysis that we use was developed around the year 1611 by the French scientists. They realized that it's brain printing because when someone lost use of their hands and they regained the motor skills with their mouth or their toes to write again, the handwriting came back to be the same. And so they knew it wasn't a motor skill. It had to do with what was on the brain. And if I, in the audience here, if I could see your handwriting, if you've injured a hip or a knee or ankle or something, I'll show you where your handwriting actually prints that out. Empty head? No, it doesn't show that. Then in the late 1800s, the Swiss scientists said, since this is brain printing, possibly if we mechanically wrote something different, we could rewrite what was on our brains. Well, that is 93% proven. I like 100%. So 100% says awareness is the first and biggest step to change. So whether you ultimately, you want to change it, you do both. And this is called graphotherapy. To write that correctly and healthy, it's 45-degree angle, long and strong, and covers right at the top. Those of you in December might notice in your handwriting that the T is crossed and it misses the vertical just a little bit. Donald Trump, when he signs his signature and puts Trump, the vertical and the horizontal don't touch. This is a person who's thinking in the future. So in December, if you're doing a plan for the next year, you're thinking in the future and your handwriting will print that out that way. By the way, if anything to the left in handwriting is to the past or ourselves. Anything to the future, anything to the right is to the future or others. The bar indicates our tongue. If the left side, see it's kind of pointed right there? If it's pointed, this person is self-degrading. They're always saying, oh, you stupid, why did you do this, why did you do that? Tough to get through to that person to be positive because they're always putting themselves down. If that happens on the right side and it's pointed, that means that that person, if backed in a corner emotionally, will become sharp-tongued. At the bottom, and this is what I was oohing and eyeing about, is the wider this area is here, the more stubborn the person is. That's the most stubborn I've ever written the T.
Oh, I don't even make it.
She doesn't do hers right. No.
So I'll okay, do you do it one-sided?
Yes.
I just do it one-sided.
Okay, you do it like this.
Yes.
If you do it like that, you're a person that when you ask a question, and David can say amen to this, when you ask a question, you prefer a clear, brief answer. Honey, you want to go to the store with me today? Well, I went yesterday and I may go tomorrow, and about that time you're going, just tell me. Come on, just tell me, right?
I'll say, do you want to do something? He says, well, that sounds good. I just say yes or no.
Don't give me the long term for it.
I've heard that before.
I'll leave the past and present up there. So that's just a few things about the T. And to change yourself and also be aware of it, cross the T at the top. If you find someone who's writing...
Can I ask a question about
yes,
the
sir?
T? My lines are, it's not a 45-degree angle. It's either flat or like parallel to the line on the page,
I'm just
or
saying
slightly tilted up.
Yeah, it's
the
almost
most
straight.
positive
Okay.
way to do it
Okay.
is to change it to where it's
Okay.
a 45-degree,
Got it.
Mine's
long
straight.
and strong. The longer you do that T as well, the more drive it will give you.
Okay.
Think about it. A person who's driven is not going to go like this. They're going to like that.
Okay.
If you see an M or let's get a W going here, or Y, or even a T, I'll do one like that. If you see a little tight circle right there on those letters, This is a person who's jealous. This person fears the loss of someone's love. He or she can be very possessive and competitive. Jealousy increases if combined with insecurities and fears. Now, if a person happens to have, by the way, something that looks like this, a larger circle, and it's open, that person desires leadership and responsibility. Different world.
That's me.
Okay, you're not jealous either.
Okay, this probably...
Can I leave while I'm ahead?
You quit while you're ahead. This is probably the most important, and I see this most often as well, and it's easy to correct. Notice I had you write words like monkey. There's a Y. What you want to focus on is, what does that tail do? If it goes level or bends down at all or bends down a lot, there's three ways to describe this. This person sets goals too low for their capabilities. This person has a fear of success and has self-sabotage. So the way to fix that, guess what angle?
Straight up.
45-degree angle. Long and strong. Get rid of that. That'll show up. Now, if you want to work on this as far as a graphotherapy, you make a sentence like, happy play today. 5 words with a Y on the end. And you write that sentence 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 500 times if you want to. 93% chance, according to the Swiss scientists, that's going to change what's on your brain. At the same time, you're also aware of it, and you're asking yourself consciously, what am I doing to self-sabotage? Now, personally, I have this. I'd known this for 18 years. And as recent as today, the way that plays out is I looked over and I'm focused on a deadline and getting a project done, and I happen to look at my coffee cup and it's dirty, and I think, oh, I'll go wash it. Uh-oh, that's my self-sabotage. So don't unfocus. I'll say, I'll do that later. Another thing that I do is my tendency is to constantly check email. So I now have an egg timer, and I set it for an hour. Unless I'm going back and forth with a client or something, I'll set it for an hour, and I'll close the email off. Because I know that I constantly distract myself by doing that. When that goes off, I go in and check email, and 99 times out of 100, there's nothing crucial there that an hour made any difference. But the why is very important. Let me say some other things about the why. The longer the stem on the why, the stronger the drive. The larger the loop, the more trusting a person is. If a person has a why that's got a loop that looks something like that, they trust so much they tend to stay in relationships way too long for their own good. Might want to reduce that just a little bit.
Mine aren't
Have a
consistent.
loop.
I don't have a loop on some I do.
Well, I just come straight down and stop.
Well, that would, David just said his comes straight down, like, looks like this.
Yeah,
You've got about 2 friends that you trust.
that many.
That many? You're quite exclusive as to who you trust. That's okay. Remember, none of these are good, bad, right, or wrong.
This one is different than this one.
And if I ever had any question as to whether any of this was true, I've been single again for 18 years. I've dated many handwritings against my own counsel, and my analyzation was correct every single time. Sometimes it took a couple of 3 years for it to come out, but it still came out. If you see a person, this is the word with.
Huh?
Not really.
Let's see.
It's like wow. Let me stand up and do this
You
one.
have to stand.
No, we're going to count that as with. W-I-T-H. Notice the first 2 letters are slanted to the left, second 2 are slanted to the right. This is a person who has a dual personality. They have trouble making decisions because to the left tends to be in their head and to the right tends to be their heart. So they're fighting between their logic and their emotions. They withdraw into the introverted personality when they feel insecure. This person is unpredictable with their mood swings. Employers, wouldn't that be nice to know before they came apart at work?
So the literature supports the idea that you can actually remap your thinking by how you practice?
93% scientifically proven that if you change your handwriting, it changes the writing on your brain.
Wow.
And changes the dynamic. That's the really important part. I don't care where it changes. If you see that's the word and. Notice the D doesn't have a stem on it hardly. Okay. This is called bubbling handwriting. Typically it's a 12 or 13-year-old. Okay. This is a person who lives for the moment. There is no upper zone up here. These people are playful but get into trouble because they tend to live for the day and they fail to foresee the consequences of their actions. This person's philosophies and ethics change frequently, often immature. Bill, you probably see in the financial planning world people that walk in their 50s and go, really? Retirement's really coming? I didn't think about that. This is a sign of, this is how we judge emotional immaturity. This next one I see in about 98% of people's handwriting, and I want to think that it's domestic, but I've analyzed in England, France, Spain, and Germany, and it's just humans. That's the word call. Notice the letter C. What is different with my second C than the first C?
You don't have that
Starts
one,
lower and curves up.
We have this little curvy top, okay? In analysis, we call that a stinger. This has two portions to it. It's called a person who needs a challenge. If this says anger towards strong members of the opposite sex, strong member qualifies as mother, father figure. And that's what it is. And most of the time, it's, if you're conscious of a little bit of it, then subconsciously there's a lot. This person tends to be only attracted to those who are a challenge, but once that person feels totally in control of the relationship, they become bored. And so particularly in hiring, for example, once they master what's going on, whatever the challenge is there, they tend to take off. Of course, you can tell that by very long resumes, kind of helps you to indicate, but take a look at that. That same movement is found in the D and in the A. See the little hook right there? Mm-hmm. It's all the same motion. And so someone says, well, it's only a couple of places. Oh no, it's in about 15 in the sentences that I gave you. The way to change that, and this, I had this as well. I didn't realize it was 6 years into analyzing that I finally realized that even though my open conflict was with my father, who was an alcoholic, my true unconscious anger was with my mother because she never, emphasis, never stood in front of him and said, stop, quit treating the children that way. It's unconscious, it's emotional, and it's there. So here's a way to deal with it. It's cheap therapy. Real cheap therapy. This is an M. This is an N. Here's the line, which we call the line of reality. There's only a few things that go below the line of reality that says normal, and that's a Y, a G, an F, or a Z. Otherwise, you see something like this. This is a person who carries resentment. And you can imagine the characteristics that come out when a person is resentful. They're going to resent you, they're going to resent their job, they're going to resent people who are more successful than them. Tough to deal with. How many people know what the word prevarication means?
Liar.
Exactly. What'd you call me? Okay, this is kind of like digging into a dozen eggs. This is the letter O. The letter O is where we can tell levels of honesty and a whole lot of other things. I'll draw you an O that is potentially the goal. This is a person, notice it's closed at the top. There's nothing else in the middle. Most of you are going to have some loops in the middle.
Yeah, I see it.
But this is a person who, if you ask them what they think, they will tell you. If there is a break up here, this is a person who will tell you what they think without you asking them. This is a person who's blunt. What we watch for is, let's say, here's a little loop right there on the inside. Remember, anything to the right is to the future and others. Anything to the left is the past or ourselves. The larger that this loop shows us the level of secrets a person has. Keep in mind the subconscious only has two basic functions. It stores information and programming, and it retrieves it for the conscious, period. It doesn't evaluate or prioritize. So if age 4, David, you stole a ball from your neighbor's yard, you put it in your house and you never told anybody, it is still programmed in your mind as shh, don't tell. The more shh a person has in programming in their subconscious, the greater chance they have of not opening up and telling the truth or all the truth to others. Okay? So here's a person who has a lot of secrets, okay? And their propensity is to not tell a lot of truth to other people. Now, we're also familiar, at least I am, with the dynamic of denial. To the left, the past or ourselves. This person is not telling themselves the truth. And it could be, as I mentioned at the very beginning, it could be about some segmented things. It might be a past relationship, it might be about their job situation, it might be about the grocery store manager, who really knows. Thankfully, I don't know what the secrets are. The way to decongest the secrets from a programming standpoint is tell anybody, guess what, at age 4 I stole a blue ball from my neighbor's yard, put it on my house, never told him about it, but now I have. It becomes unprogrammed. And in any 12-step program, that's part of it. In step about 5, because I went through the process with my issues, and my sponsor at one point, when we got to step 5 and it said make an exhaustive moral inventory, I believe it's 5, maybe 4, he gave me 45 pages of questions. It took me a year and a half to write down the answers to all those questions and went through every portion of a person's life. But what that did for me is that once I wrote it down and then I shared it with him, that decompressed the secrets. Not that there was anything that would put me in jail or anything wrong. It's just, it's programmed there. And so now I have to be careful of being very honest and saying what I think. There's kind of a downside to that. Now, here's where it gets kind of really interesting. And again, don't go out and commit suicide tonight because you think you're a bad person. If there's an imaginary line here, and that loop over here goes and crosses that line, that's enough secrets that not only they're not telling others the truth, but they're not telling themselves the truth. Another way, and it can go the other way. Another way that looks, and more classic, is when there's double loops and they cross each other, like that. This person, if you're not telling others the truth and you're not telling yourself the truth, you don't know what the truth is, right? This is called pathological lying, because this person has no conviction in their heart. They have no way of knowing that what they're saying is not true, and I have a relative who is like that, who has stayed clueless most of his life. Clear so far? I don't hear any snoring on the other end over there. The way we write a D. If a person has a big loop right here, the larger the loop on the D, the more sensitive a person is to criticism. This is kind of overboard. This person's really sensitive to criticism. That's a difficult relationship to have, because my experience is not only are they sensitive to criticism, but they perceive things as criticism when they aren't. If this person flattens out the top of the loop on the D, this person is paranoid. Kind of a hell trait in a relationship. Tough to have somebody in a company who's paranoid. Now, my audience in-house in the studio is now covering their papers, which is normal. I spoke to Rotary Club last week, and one fellow who's quite outgoing left, and he said to the person who booked me 3 times, "Do not have him back. I repeat, do not ever have him back." Okay, my count is that's 9, so I'm going to give you 2 bonuses, since we've got some time here, which I just had a hard time deciding which ones are most important, because if somebody's got one of these 11 now, this could be tough. Notice that I purposely had you write words like monkey, make, and shake. You hear my emphasis? Monkey, make, and shake. That's one of 3 of about 5 words in our English language that have K's in the middle. A person who is defiant or is resistant and rebellious to being told what to do, or is defiant against rules and authority, in cursive writing, that's a capital K. They will capitalize the word K. Now, I have to be really aware, because it's possible they could capitalize another word, another letter somewhere else. So I have to pay attention to that. But for the most part, including other countries, this is a human thing. It's fascinating, but capitalizing the K. And our books call this the go to hell K. Now, here's a way to tell if someone has this without seeing their handwriting. Here's a person who's had a 30-year work life. Ask them how many places they've worked. If they say 9, 10, 11, 12 places, there's a good chance that's what's going on. This is the person that you work in a company, they've been there for 2.5 years, you're friends, you walk by their cube and you see that they're gone, and you hear that they've gone to the boss's office, and at noon you walk back by the cube and they're gone. Not only are they gone, their flowers are gone, their pictures are gone, everything is gone, and you never hear from them again. These are people who do not negotiate. They basically say, I don't like what happened, go to hell, I'm out of here. And the way in a social world that I find that out is I'll ask a lady, and in my age range, this lady has dated for 35 years. And I'll say, of all the relationships you've had, whether it's your marriage or marriages, and your dating relationships, who broke up? Was it kind of 50-50? Was it all him? Was it all you? What was it? And if they have this, they will say this, oh, it's me. It's just the guys I'm attracted to. And everybody has their reasons. But the truth is, that's what it is. And at that point, I know in a relationship, what's so special to me, they're not going to break up with me too. And that may be 5 weeks or it may be 5 years of marriage, but eventually they're going to break up because this is how they handle life. They just walk off. Obviously, the way to correct that in graphotherapy is to, that's a weenie K, but it should have a loop up there and a loop out here. Make a small K. And you can make up a sentence like, monkeys make shaky friends. But that's what that means. Bonus number 2, this is a healthy E. This is what we call, I do that every time.
Oh.
Looks like an upside down Z, doesn't it? That's what I'd call a retraced E. A lot of times it's even thicker than that. The E is the ear. The more open it is, the more a person listens to other people's ideas. The more closed it is, the less they do. Now, in the French method, we do 2 things. Number 1, we look at each one of those individual characteristics, and then we go back and we do what we call a stacking. So one step in the stacking is if this person had a T that looks like that, and they also had this is stubborn. This is a combination for jail. Because stubbornness is good as long as you're going toward a good goal. But if the person chooses to go to a not so good goal and is not listening to other people who balance them out, they're just going to keep going. So all of this is not just really easy to do.
We are.